But I want people to look at, it's not about how it feels today. It's about, listen, if you don't die tomorrow, in 20 years, what's going to take care of you?
Welcome to In the Boardroom with His Capital Group, a series of unfiltered conversations created to share our successes and failures, along with some of the tips, tricks, hacks, and strategies that we've used along the path to building wealth. So grab your favorite beverage, get to that quiet spot, and tune in to today's conversation. And remember that a legacy isn't only about leaving what you've earned, but also what you've learned.
Welcome back to the boardroom. I am here today with Mr. Rick Melero with His Capital. And if you like what you're seeing, please take a look above and take a look at some of those episodes.
When I think about some of the best deals that we've done, we've been blessed to have done a lot of deals. And so I've created many categories in my head. One of my favorite categories, believe it or not, is boring. It's literally the deals that were without a hitch. They were smooth. Because really what I'm aspiring to do is to ultimately get those projects to the place where most of them are in that category. Because at the end of the day, I'm not doing deals anymore just to do deals. I'm doing deals to build freedom so that I can have the time to do the things that I want to do. So I'll talk about maybe one of those in a second. The other bucket that I have is just really unique deals. These are projects that are just so out of the box that most people have never even heard of those kind of deals or never been a part of something like that. I would say in the last 2 years in particular, one of the very best deals that we have done is we actually had purchased a mortgage from an institution that basically they needed to get rid of mortgages. They had a major financial situation that they had. And so they reached out to us. And the reason why it was such an amazing deal for us is because I had been predicting that this was going to happen in the future, that these hedge funds that were buying from people like us, they were changing their guidelines and they were exposing their financial risk. And so when COVID was about to hit, I knew that there was going to be a way that they would come back and say, help me to get out of this mess. And sure enough, during COVID, that happened and they reached out to us. And so what we were able to do was actually buy back some assets from another lender, I guess, that sold them the mortgages. They were performing mortgages, meaning they were paying every month. There was no issue with it. The loan to values were amazing. But when we bought the mortgage, because we bought them discounted, we basically got a discount on the purchase. We got the performance on the whole loan. And when the loan actually paid off, we got paid off on the whole balance. So it means that we were never exposed. So like to give you a picture, we do $1 million loan, right? That $1 million loan is what I'm buying for $800,000. But the borrower is paying me the monthly payments on the $1 million.
Yeah.
And then at the end, when they sell the property, I get my $1 million, but I only bought it for 800. So that was a very unique but a very profitable deal that was completely seamless. I did absolutely no work other than to hit the wire and sign the papers. So I would say in the last 2 years, it's been a very unique project that was very profitable. And most importantly, I didn't have to do any work. So it was awesome.
Do you think more of those are coming in the market we're in right now? Because you mentioned COVID and where we are the last 2 years. Do you think that more of those deals could be coming?
Yes, I believe that because of the fact that the Federal Reserve has continued to increase rates, it's really impacted yield spread companies. That's why you've seen banks financially hurt. The important thing, though, is being able to be in a relationship with those organizations because they don't just trade to the public. But yeah, I know of a group right now. It's unfortunate. I feel bad for them, but they just filed Chapter 11. And they're getting rid of close to $200 million of mortgages that I am certain will be sold at a discount. But nobody's going to see it except the guys that are already connected. So
I'm only going to ask just because I want to know at this point, right? And I'm sure there's somebody out there watching this right now that's asking the same thing, right? Mm-hmm. There's probably a first-time home buyer or hasn't bought in their first house, young couple, still living in an apartment. Mm-hmm. The apartment complex hasn't raised their rent, so they're like, oh, I'm going to stay steady. Like, you talk about interest rates going up in the last 30 days, 60 days, 30 days, right? They held steady with the feds, right? But that's kind of a summer thing. It's like, let's let people spend money. Do you see the interest rates continuing to rise? And if so, what would you tell a young couple that, they're that doesn't have any financial advice. Comes from the streets like you and I, no college education. They're scared, but they're going to continue to. They've been there in that lease for 2 years. Like, what kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, I mean, for somebody who is just thinking about their own home, I need to make a financial decision. Do I stay renting or do I ultimately own? The answer in this particular market is you are better off making a risk, an educated decision on buying an asset today. There is no guarantee that the rates won't go up. That's just a fact, first and foremost. But there is one guarantee: over the next 10 years, real estate is going to be impacted, and it is in alignment with inflation. So that means that in 10 years, properties are not going to be worth what they are today regardless. And so it is essential for you to at least lock in some of that equity and make sure that some of your payments that you're already paying somebody else are going towards your principal reduction over time.
I say it all the time. Like people buy houses and stuff like that, and it's like, oh, I have much in savings. Well, that's fine. Guess what? You've got a built-in savings account now.
Exactly.
Pay an extra $20, $30 on top of your mortgage, and it builds equity.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
So yeah. I know it was a little off subject, the best stories in real estate, but I figured we're here today on camera. There's somebody watching this right now that's, should I call a realtor? Should I buy a house? Should I not buy a house? Stuff like that. So it's important, right?
No, I think it is important. Ownership right now is in danger. I don't even think people realize that. In many of the countries that are overpriced, when you actually do the research, most of the real estate is owned by institutional wealthy people, and the people who ultimately rent are the ones that can't afford it anymore. We are in a really unique situation in America that, for being quote unquote, one of the biggest economies on the planet, our real estate is still relatively affordable. Like, I've done business in different countries. I've got clients. There's guys in Israel where a condo is going for 1.3, and that's your average price. There's still condos here for under 300 grand.
Yeah.
You can buy, right? So what I tell people is, it's a very rational decision, especially right now. Don't wait to say, is the rate going to go up or down? The important thing is you've got an asset now. Over the next 12, 18, 24, 36 months, what we're going to be experiencing is still inflation. Prices are still going up, which is ultimately going to impact real estate. So that's essential.
I agree with you. Something else that scares me is my kids are 20, 17, right? So their generation, their friends, they're not interested in buying houses and stuff like that, right? Your daughter is, my son and daughter is, your 9-year-old son, right? Yeah, right. I'm sure he is as well, because that's what you've instilled, right? Like, they see what dad does every single day.
Right.
My kids do the same thing, but their friends out there, they're not interested in buying homes and stuff like that. They're okay with renting. That scares me as a realtor, as a business partner with other real estate partners. It's like, yikes, but I do love the analogy of the real estate and buying a house and stuff like that. I always say, I said it earlier today when we were out at the properties in Lakeland, that, you're marrying the house, you're dating the interest rate.
Right.
But I'm going to use yours for now on, because yours was a lot more better. It was a lot better, a lot more professional. Our children today are so stuck on the famous things that they see on our social media, right? Like, if they see somebody that's 21 years old, driving in a Lamborghini, throwing cash out, like, they want to follow it, they want to like it. And now you're getting that continuous content and feeding in your brain, right? There's an example that we had in our house where my daughter at a younger age said, I saw this on TikTok and this is what I'm going to do. And my wife's like, I'm the parent, this is what really happens and stuff like that. So give me an example, like, the younger generation right now, in my opinion, follows that social media content. And unfortunately, not all the social media content is accurate. It's not good content, right? It's just what sells, unfortunately. But I tried to tell our children that we all have our lanes. And if I'm thinking about doing investments, right, I want a financial advisor. right? I'm not going to go to the walk-in clinic. If I need heart surgery, I'm going to go to the best damn heart surgeon that's in my area, right? So I'm not going to meet Johnny at Starbucks, and because he's banking in stocks and he has a great portfolio right now and the stocks are killing it, I'm not going to go just jump in there and say, hey, here's $10,000, let's invest. I want an educated person that can lay it out for me, let me know what the risks are and what the rewards are as well. And again, at the end of the day, any type of investment, there's risk and reward, right?
In a different angle, I guess, one of the things that I'm thinking about with this current generation of young individuals they have things we didn't have, right? Like they, for sure. I don't ever remember when.
In
2000,
could you buy stock right now? I could buy it right now and it's there, it's crazy.
Dude, we didn't even have a wall. It was a picture on the wall. Anyway, that was bad. But anyway, we have all this technology that's supposed to make our lives easier. Many of the pieces of technology also in the future are going to eliminate many of the jobs that we think we're going to have. That's another thing we need to be aware of. And you got to think about also this mentality, which I respect, is where you have a lot of the young people that are saying, I don't want to do what I saw my parents do because their life sucks. And that's kind of their perception, right? And so in their mind, they see maybe mom and dad did buy the house. And maybe over the years, they saw the struggles and they saw all these things. Are I don't want anything to do with housing because I'm associating that with headaches, work, I'm tied down, I can't go anywhere, and I want to be a nomad, right? Which is cool, But what I always tell people is if you really have a career that's going to really help you to become financially free, if you don't have a roadmap for that, then 90% of the people that don't have that kind of financial roadmap, if you don't buy real estate in the future, you can't retire. I'll give you an example. My mother-in-law and my father-in-law, I love them. And he just passed away a couple of years ago now. But they had built a solar business and they worked their butts off in the solar business and they did everything they could to perform. And so it was so bad that my kids were like, I don't ever want the solar business. That just looks painful.
Sell it. Yeah.
So they didn't want anything to do with it. So then of course, but that's how they provided. But what most people don't even know, because we don't know what our future looks like, right? Or what things are going to happen to us. Case in point, my heart.
Sure.
But to give you kind of a picture of this family, and I just want to kind of set this tone like this. So my father-in-law and my mother-in-law had a business. It supported their lifestyle. They had a hustle. They had a grind. They had a sacrifice. And they thought this company would either A, the kids would take over, which became a massive no, or B, we'll sell it and that's how we'll retire. That was their way.
Yep.
But a part of them said, but what if that business doesn't really perform? Maybe what I should do is take the income I have now and start buying property. So they ended up buying almost an entire block of real estate in Tampa. And they still had goals. They still had ambitions. They just took the business, paid down the mortgages. They had tenants. They had all the headaches of ownership that people have.
Yep.
But now let me tell you what really happened. So now my father-in-law gets diagnosed with stage 4 stomach cancer, and it's spreading through his body. They are now desperate to now say, what do we do? They sold their business for peanuts. So had they been just counting on this business income, I don't know what their future would have looked like.
Yeah.
But then they look back at this real estate and they sell it. They're able to get not only completely financially free, they have capital now that came from that they could actually invest in passive income. My mother-in-law lives off the interest of the money they made on the real estate, not the business. And so what I want people to look at, it's not about how it feels today. It's about, listen, if you don't die tomorrow, in 20 years, what's going to take care of you? You don't know if you're going to be physically fit to do it or if you're going to be in the hospital. I was in complete shape. I mean, I was in the best shape of my life. And I had open heart surgery because randomly I was born with an anomaly.
Yeah.
Right? I think they said that most people have 1% have an anomalous heart. My type of anomaly was 3% of the 1%. You can't even put that in a number. So it's not like I could plan for, okay, well, one day I'm going to have a heart issue, so here's the budget for it, right? It's just the way life is, and life is precious. It is a gift. And so if you are young and you're looking at the future and you have a lifestyle that you like, let's say like being nomad, you are also blessed with the fact that in today's market, there are so many different tools and apps that are hacking real estate that you can benefit. I know people right now that are in Tulum, Mexico hanging out, and they built a house and they rent the rooms in short-term rental and they hang out in the other one. They're amazing hosts. They are the digital nomad with an awesome property that's producing cash flow, and they are free. And guess what? If God forbid they had to come back and they had to sell their property, they have money because they own an asset.
Yep.
My question to you is, if you're that digital nomad or if you're that tech person, what happens if you can't work anymore? Can you sell something off to make money? And if you don't have that answer, then that's your number one priority right now, is figure out how you can get in at least one property that over time will help supplement your income. Actually, as a business owner, I have had seasons of my life where I was just renting. It was just more convenient for my travels. I mean, I was traveling for a long time, so renting to me made sense. I had a season that was terrible. I look back and I'm like, I can't believe I endured this. Where I had a project in Orlando, but my family was in Tampa.
Yep.
And my mom was in the mission field. We had to take care of her house. So for 5 years, she asked for 1 year. I did 5. The Bible says if someone says, go with me 1 mile, go with them 2. I ended up 5. But because of the commute from Orlando to Tampa, it was impossible. So I had to literally lease a condo halfway so that I could do that. And so, I look back and yes, it was a business expense. Yes, it offered me flexibility. But if I do the math, that's a crap load of money that just went out the window and helped somebody else make money. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what the logic really says. What I look at in today's market, it's unless if you're going to be disciplined enough to rent and have the flexibility you want, that's not a problem. If you're disciplined enough to put aside a specific amount of money that over time you invest and you don't touch. The problem with most humans is the moment something happens or there's a move, what do? You tap into the savings account. And so that is the issue is, so for that example of a person that says, I got a career, I don't know if I want to own, I would rather rent because I have flexibility. I don't have to pay this money to repair the property when it needs it. I would say, yeah, there's freedom. But on the other hand, in 20 years from now, and you take a look at your life and you say, okay, for 20 years, do the math on what the rent is. How much money did you blow out the window? In some cases, it's millions of dollars that people literally have put out there that could have helped build your wealth or at least stabilize you. So in the short term, it sounds awesome. But logically, if you write that paycheck every single month and you forecast it for 10 years, you do the math and ask yourself.
There's no return on it. There's no return on it.
I gave this away.
There's no return.
I literally paid for Rick's retirement. I'm his tenant. Right?
You own the $26 million building, right? Yes, exactly.
Right. So that's how that works, right? So, what I would say is, and there is a con. If you own an asset, you're responsible, right? So I've had ownership nightmares, literally. But when I weigh the difference between not having that headache and not owning, or owning, having the headache, but looking at my net worth, I will take that headache every single day. Because every single day I have something I'm going to leave behind.
Correct. Yeah.
Where if I was renting, I'm a ghost. I never existed. There's nothing physical that I'm handing off.
And if you ever need to borrow money, you've got it, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
you've got it. You've got the equity in the house if you've done it right?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
But you could go there if you needed to pay for your kids to go to college, if you needed to build a mother-in-law suite, whatever it was, you've got an asset to go and get it, right?
Right.
So I think this similar kind of thing, right? I sat down recently with my daughter and we were talking about it. And, she lives in one of our rentals right now. I'm losing money every month, but it's still an asset. It's still an asset, but she's in school and that's the deal, right? Yeah. That's the deal. But we sat down and she had made a comment and stated, I don't know if I want to buy. I think I want to just travel. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Let's talk about this. And what you just said, right? Let's just say that you find the cheapest apartment that you possibly can find, right? And you're okay with that, wherever it's located. And it's only $1,000. $1,000 in a year, that's 12 grand. 2 years, 24. 3 years, 36. You get nothing back on that. I'm like, I would rather you go buy a single family home, or I would really rather you go look at a duplex. Let's look at a duplex. Let's get some passive income on the other side. Even so, if your rent's $1,500 or your mortgage is $1,500, every month you make that payment whether if it's $20 going to the principal for the first 10 years, it's still money that you're saving, and you have somebody else living next door help paying for it. So I don't ever suggest to stay in the renting mode, right? I definitely think, like you said, 20 years from now, your mother-in-law, father-in-law, right? Those assets, they paid off. They paid off, right? And so, you got to have some real estate in the market or in your portfolio because stocks and money markets and all that stuff, those come and go. So.
Yeah. And again, going back to using tech, it doesn't mean you have to do it the old school way. There are so many ways. There's a company that's crushing it out of Tampa and St. Pete where instead of doing your traditional short-term rental, you furnish the whole house, and they have an app where it has all the backgrounds, all the stuff that it does, and they rent per room. Like, they have so many cool things that even if you didn't want to be there. And I mean, when I say, like, there's properties I was just analyzing.
It's not the easiest thing to insure in the world, but yes, it is a unique kind of situation. And it's only like right now, it's only like 7 areas in the United States that are doing it. So
that
it's
are
not
crushing
crazy.
it.
Yeah.
And so, but I look at that and I think even with the numbers, a traditional loan or property, would have rented for, I don't know, $2,000 a month in the.
I was going to say,
I've
seen the chart. So 2,400.
Yeah.
And it's bringing in about 4,200.
Yeah.
Because it's rooms.
So think about that. So that in itself is covering not only the mortgage but some great cash flow. So where there's a will, there's a way. And what I tell people, if you want some flexibility, don't compromise building wealth. Just ask yourself within the flexibility, are there other things within the current real estate market that I could leverage? I know a family right now that just bought this amazing property, Reunion Resort, amazing house. The reality is, like, they probably would have never paid that kind of money for a property that high end. But that was a life dream. Why can they afford it? Because they're going to come and use it on vacation right now while they pay off the mortgage.
Yeah.
But the short-term rental numbers, because of where it's located, more than will pay off the property in 5 years.
Yeah.
So they're just going to give up all that rental income and sacrifice for 5 years so that in 5 years they own a mansion that probably is going to be worth maybe 2 times its value. And now the cash flow's there, or they can just move in there. So again, just begin to ask yourself, how do I adapt? How do I leverage and really own something tangible like real estate? I think is essential.
I have somebody that doesn't want to buy a house. They're like, Rick, I'm not buying a house. I'm not buying a property, but I love real estate. I want low risk. I want to get in it. Are there companies out there that they can put their money in to help that larger company, like a hedge fund or somebody else like that purchases homes and then they get a return every month or every quarter or every 6 months, every year? Is there companies out there that do that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a variety of different offerings, that are out there available that are tied specifically to real estate, where they can kind of get an upside. There are REITs. Basically, what ends up happening is, unless if you have the liquidity to put it all in cash and buy your own and hold your own asset, meaning passively, because obviously you can get a mortgage and buy a house.
Yep.
But if you're going to be passive, there are other vehicles and other companies out there that host it. We happen to do some of that. We have 2 products in particular that we generally offer someone like that, and that is, whole note, where maybe they don't want to own any headaches either if something goes wrong. They don't have to. They can own a mortgage and it pays them every single month, and the borrower is the guarantor. Worst case, they default, you take the house, and now you've got all the equity. The other one is, of course, when they invest in a fund, something that is basically creating a portfolio of assets. So yes, the answer is yes, there is a way that they can still participate and they can invest some of their money. But from the perspective of long-term, owning in addition to something like that's an investment, it just has far outweighed almost 95% of the people who did it right, meaning they didn't over leverage and they didn't buy more than they could,
sacrifice a little here and there. And
if they did it right, almost everyone that I have ever worked with even had the majority of their cash that they had to invest came from the first sale of the house that they owned, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, I'm sold on, you should probably own a house. Thank you for reaching us here and being with us till the very end. We hope you have found this content valuable. And I want to encourage you, look at the prompts below. Please let us know. Are you still sold on buying, or are you still questioning whether you should buy or rent? We'd love to answer those questions. We read those comments, and we look forward to the next episode with you.
If you're interested in seeing some of the projects that we're currently working on right now with his capital and Mr. Rick Melero, please check us out on Instagram.
And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want more additional content pertaining to real estate investments or motivation and success in life in general, check out some of the other videos that we have. I'm sure they'll be a blessing to you as well.